We just believe that anyone can beat the airline system and take advantage of the loopholes and create dream trips, memories that last a lifetime without paying 30 grand for a ticket.
You have a little story about helping Ari Fleischer when he wanted to go to the Game of Thrones tour back to Croatia, Dubrovnik. Favorite place, one of my favorite places ever to travel.
Domestic routes, they have the wide body, internationally configured aircraft. And so, but what routes are they on, right?
You know, one of my bucket list goals is to see, Ringo Starr before he's gone. And, originally I started looking at only in the States, and I thought, maybe I can use one of these strategies, do a points thing, go see him whatever country he's in. Welcome to Capability Amplifier. In this episode, you'll learn how to fly first and business class for little or no more than coach from the travel industry's longest running publisher. Now, my guest is Mr. Upgrade, Matt Bennett, and he and I are going to share with you how to get $20,000 to $30,000 international tickets for 70 to 90% off, find massive hidden airline upgrades, and valuable travel mindsets. Now, you'll soon rethink the way you travel and create the most incredible experiences and memories you and your family will ever have. Now, heads of state, including Ari Fleischer, actress Rita Moreno, executives from Fortune 100 companies, professors, doctors, lawyers, and thousands more, go to him for his expertise and content. So by the end of this show, you'll find out how to buy miles to fly in style, travel like a king, queen, or a rock star, create accidental bucket list experiences, turn your business trip into a vacation, find routes with the best seats, and a lot more. So welcome my new friend, Mr. Upgrade, Matt Bennett, founder of firstclassflyer.com. How you doing, man?
Hi, good, great, Mike. Good to be with you.
Yeah, this is good. I've been looking forward to this. Yeah. We've been able to test out some of these messages. You were at a mastermind with me last night. And the first thing when you started talking, people just leaned in. They're like, tell me more, what you got. So I think the first place to start here is you've got a certain mindset about what you believe. And that's a good way to kick things off before we get into the big sharing.
Yeah, well, we just believe that anyone can beat the airline system and take advantage of the loopholes and create dream trips, memories that last a lifetime without paying 30 grand for a ticket. We try to get those for 3 grand or a $20,000 ticket for 2. And so that's what we do. And it, changes people's memory life.
Yeah, for sure. And you've been doing this now 26 years.
Publishing firstclassflyer.com.
Right. But the story that led to this, I think your origin story's really great. And I always have a hard time not talking about it because it's actually pretty good. But why don't we begin with your dad, and then we'll get into how you developed the business and where it came from.
Well, my father was an entrepreneur, a small wheeler dealer, small business guy, and he would, amongst other, he was a stainless steel sculptor. He painted Indy race cars, and he did a lot of things. And then he went out on his own and got in the business of buying surplus goods, buy truckloads of distressed merchandise. Trucking companies, for example, might be shipping Crisco oil, and one bottle breaks and gets oil on the box, and Safeway or the store won't take it. So the truck distributor will have to, find a home for it. And my dad would buy these things, sprinklers, ladders, you name it, distressed goods, and we'd take them and go to flea markets and on the weekends we might go to a government auction. You remember in the back of the Popular Mechanics on how to make a living. So my father was just, he taught us how to buy low and sell high. And he said jokingly that on the Bennett coat of arms, that Bennett's don't pay retail.
I love that.
So, and that translated what we talk about as far as mindset is concerned is to realize that in the airline industry, people realize that, the person sitting next to them didn't pay what they did. So we all have that feeling, that sometimes great feeling if you score, but if you didn't get a score, you're feeling like crap and you hate the airlines. And so you just take a negative mindset into the process of booking an airline ticket. And so realizing that the airline industry is like any other, there's wholesale and surplus markets for airline tickets. for $30,000 airline tickets. And so that was sort of the genesis of having the mindset when I, if you go into the next chapter of my life and what I did with the early days.
Yeah. Well, that I think is where I want to go next. So you're 17 years old. You got a 92-mile-an-hour fastball pitch. You get recruited by the Kansas City Royals. How did the background you have blend and merge into what became First Class Flyer?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story. So yeah, I signed a minor league contract with the Kansas City Royals when I was 17 out of high school, and they would give you write you a check.
Yep.
To get to buy an airline ticket to get to spring training. They didn't want to deal with the logistics of airline tickets, so they just gave you what they call walk-up or full fare money at the time. It was like $650 for a one-way ticket.
Yeah.
And so if you give a 17-year-old kid who we would only be making $850 a month. This is like 1993.
Yeah.
And so you don't get paid much in the minors, and you only get paid $850 a month for half a year. So when they write you a check and they tell you, you keep the change if you get it for a little less, they gave you the maximum of an airline ticket could possibly cost. And so, if you do that, you get write a check to the guy whose dad says Bennett's don't pay retail. Not long later, going to figure out how to get an airline ticket to spring training for as cheap as possible. And so, a few years in the minor leagues, 6 one-way tickets later, I kind of figured a lot out about the airline industry and how not to pay retail. And so when I tendonitis, I got sacked. What do I do? Right. So I wasn't going to get a job. My father never had a job when, he was always just buying stuff.
Blissfully unemployable. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there like, what do I do? What do I know how to buy low that, most other people don't? And, that was an airline ticket, expensive airline tickets. And so, throw a few ads in the paper, start meddling around. And that led to, helping people save money. But I wasn't really a sales guy and, flying and talking to individuals. So, I thought, well, you don't want to sell the information. I don't want to be selling one ticket at a time. So wrote a few books, industry books for travel agents. I wrote the first directory of airline consolidators in 95 or something. And worked well, loved it. But the travel agency market, target, universe was quite small.
Right.
And they don't like paying for stuff. They're used to getting stuff for free. So I thought, so I published one more book, Source Book of Wholesale Travel. It did okay, but again, just not a big universe. So I thought, along the way, I'm just learning, really learning about how the industry works, and then got into a lot of business and first class because the tickets were expensive.
Yep.
And so I thought, the travel agents, they don't want to buy small market. Why don't I start a newsletter? Right. And this is sort of back in mid-late 90s. And, they're still cool. So I started First Class Flyer and started selling the secrets and strategies and mindset. And this was 26 years ago. And
it's
praise
really,
God I'm still here.
Yeah. It's an unbelievable story because what started out was a print newsletter, went to fax.
Yeah.
And then website. And you would have arguably had one of the first paid membership sites that were available. So, why don't we dig into some of your strategies? Because I know that's what's going to get some people tickled. But more importantly, what I want you, kids at home, to listen for are the mindsets. Because one of the things that I've learned after hanging out with Matt and working with him is it's not just the technique and the strategy, because he's got hundreds of them. And this is how he's made a living for a long time. And at this point, maybe as a point of reference, how many total upgrades do you think you've provided since you opened doors?
Millions and millions. I don't know. I think we counted 7 million, depending on how you look at it. It could be 70 million.
Right.
And a lot of them, and especially in the early days, are still used today. And so sometimes they have a shelf life. The particular strategies, the mindsets are sort of timeless.
Yeah.
But we've had, fortunately, been recognized and fairly well circulated.
So one of the things that you did for me is we went and we spent a lot of time together, days now, and going through inventorying some of these strategies. And I came up with 5 that I wanted you to share. So here's the first one. Cool strategy number 1, buy miles to fly in style strategy. So why don't you tell me, first of all, what is it? When do you use it? How's it work? And what are the savings? Like, what are the benefits?
Well, I mean, most people, when you think of accumulating miles, you think of flying, or sometimes now with credit cards. So those are the typical way of earning airline miles. Well, a lot of times these $30,000, $20,000 airline tickets are you can use miles to redeem for them. Well, what if you haven't flown enough, or what if you burnt all your miles on your last trip? Maybe you're taking
or you got when we were going through all my stuff. I've got a bunch of Delta points. They're worthless, basically, but other airlines are good and they're transferable, and you've educated me on those. So yeah, I'm like, you did an inventory. You're like, okay, here's what you're doing right. Here's what you're doing wrong. I'm like, ugh. So
well, certainly. I mean, miles and points. There's higher value currencies, just like pounds and euros and pesos.
Yeah.
And Delta Sky Miles have been termed Sky Pesos because they're worth essentially a penny a piece.
Yeah.
But when you use miles and points on the right airlines, you can redeem them at the discounted price levels, and we can show you how to do that too. You can get 10 cents, 15 cents of value a mile as opposed to Delta's 1 cent. Mm-hmm. You redeem them for the right things instead of just gift cards or car rentals. We think that redeeming them for $20,000 and $30,000 tickets that you're going to remember. There's just some magic of when you're flying business or for first class on an opulent Emirates, Singapore, Lufthansa, Japan Airlines. They just change the way you arrive. They change the way you return and make you feel good about flying to the other side of the world, right? Who wants to? If we could just beam us to the other side of the world, we'd travel much more often. And so how do we get out the door as well? You make it in a really enjoyable experience. So back to the points is, credit card points are much more valuable because you can transfer them like Amex into, over 20 different airline partners. So we love credit card points more than airline points because you can kind of keep them in this Uber currency and then transfer them as needed.
So let's do something, a real life example. So let's say you had shared with me airlines like Lufthansa, or there's All Nippon, there's Emirates. Give me a real life scenario of maybe something that you've done recently of the real cost, buying points, transfer, and get nitty gritty.
Well, if you want to talk about a trip that you were thinking about taking next year, Tokyo.
You're right.
Japan Airlines we love. So Emirates we love. They're a transfer partner with Amex, and we could talk. I think we're going to talk about is
that's
one
coming
of
up with
the
another
interesting.
one.
But to stay on the buy miles strategy. So airlines started selling miles. So in addition to the credit card transfers, in addition to flying, they started selling miles 10 years ago. And so you can just buy for generally they're about 2.5 cents. Is sort of the everyday price. Generally, you can buy $250,000 a year. All those are secrets on how to buy virtually unlimited. Well, totally unlimited in the amount of miles. But let's just take your Tokyo trip because I want to get you there in first class because you're going to be a lot quicker to go. So American Airlines sell, and so you want to buy miles when they go on sale. Right. Just you want to.
So they're like half price.
It's like
when
people
you do
say,
that.
Matt, when's the best time to buy an airline ticket? And you hear these bloggers and these experts. They'll talk about Tuesdays or Saturdays or after midnight. No, the best time to buy an airline ticket is when they're cheapest. And so, of course, that's what first class. That's what we do is just when they're the cheapest. Well, so you can buy American Airlines miles on sale. So if they're typically 2.5 cents, let's say, they get down to about 1.8 cents. Well, American is partners with many One World Alliance airline members. One is Japan Airlines flies nonstop to Tokyo in your case. So, 160,000 American miles gets you a first class ticket on CHAO, Japan Airlines, which ranges depending on, the origin, time of year, and this and that, easily for sure $20K, but you could easily get up to $30K. And it's nice. The service, it's just the Asian service and the seats are just, top 4 or 5. And so you get so it takes 160,000 American Airlines miles, which you can buy on sale for 1.8-ish cents each.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, you're looking at, $29-ish $100 for that $30,000 ticket.
Yeah, about $2,900. That's exactly what
give or take, and $50 in taxes. And, but wow, because business class, right, is $6 or $8 grand. Coach is going to spend, I don't know, we don't think about coach, but premium economy would certainly be close to that.
Yeah.
And so, this is how you can fly first class for the price of premium economy. or get that 30K for 3,000. And we think it's a big deal. A lot of people, for travelers, they know the difference between a trip in premium economy coach. Even business class nowadays is, crammed in internationally. It's okay. Business is okay. There's not that many first class. So, life is short. Fly first class whenever you can.
Right. Well, there's another thing that you did too. You have a little story about helping Ari Fleischer when he wanted to go to the Game of Thrones tour back to Croatia, Dubrovnik. Favorite place, one of my favorite places ever to travel. But you also helped him with a deal, and that was points related too. It's an optimized point strategy. So you want to dig into that one really fast? Is there any?
Yeah, 3 tickets is a little bit harder to find mileage availability, and he wanted to stop on his way, and so he was and it was a $4,000 maybe $5,000 with the stopover and stuff, and so it was challenging, and so we found ways to get him down to using his miles for free. So you want to be persistent, and you want to fly on dates and stuff, and that goes back to the mindset on booking backwards. Don't just start with hard dates. Look at when the deal is, and get your $5,000 business class ticket to Europe when there's availability, and for free on the miles. In his case, he had a ton of Amex points, and so it was essentially free, and he had a great trip.
Yeah,
with the kids, right? With the kid, take them in the premium, and that's all anybody talks about, right? Yeah. So there's bragging rights, and you're a king at the cocktail party. What do people talk about at the cocktail? Where they went and how they got there.
Yeah. Yep. And it makes the story even more interesting. Yesterday we were at a mastermind group, high end, $75,000 a month home that this guy, a friend of mine, is renting. And one of the guys who's there, he's a player, he just bought $35,000 tickets for his wife and him because to them, the benefits are worth it. And then, of course, I introduced him to you, and, you're like, yeah, probably could have gotten that for about $4,000. So, all right, let's do cool strategy number 2. This is the one, the finding the routes with the best seats. Why don't you explain what that is, what it means, and both the mindset behind it, but also the strategy and technique?
Well, one of the challenges is anytime, how you get on the plane and you don't know what kind of seats you're going to get half the time. The airlines are so inconsistent.
Yeah, so you got the 1970s icky first class seats versus the Delta One sleepers, and I don't know exactly which is which.
Yeah, and if you got a 1 or 2 hour flight, who cares?
Yeah.
Okay, but if you're flying to Hawaii, you got 5, 6, you're going from the East Coast, 10 hours of flying.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So, during the the airlines fly domestic routes. They have the wide body internationally configured aircraft. And so, but what routes are they on, right? You sometimes see, they're on the transcons. They have the lie flat seats from New York to San Francisco, like a couple other routes. But to Hawaii, especially during the lockdown, when people were traveling internationally, they moved a lot of the aircraft to domestic routes into Hawaii. Hawaii got to be big. They were early to let people in. And so a lot of the routes to Hawaii had the international configured wide body lie flat seats. Well, it's changed now. So the airlines are migrating their aircraft to back to Europe and Asia, especially Europe. And so, but there's 19 routes right now across the U.S. that have the wide body internationally configured lie flat seats to Hawaii. So for the same money, you can get, or similar money, often the times the same money, you can get a seat that for the same money as the 70s seat if you know the routes. And so that's what we publish, every couple of months we can stay on top of the airlines, the routes, the flight numbers. And so like little bit of knowledge in the travel industry can just totally change your trip. And
okay. So I'm going to give you a shameless plug here. So first of all, I'm going to ask Matt, if you do it the hard way, how to do it. But if you do it the easy way, First Class Flyer, you're a publisher, you got all these reports. And I'm going to give you a link right now. It's at firstclassflyer.com/MK. And you can try out Matt's service for 14 days, okay? And that way you can download a whole bunch of the reports that are filled with all the strategies, the step-by-step how-to, a bunch of links. There's alert services too. But if someone were to do this the hard way, what would they have to go? What kind of stuff would they have to go through? Like, what are your researchers and your systems doing manually?
We have dozens of people around the globe. You talk about alerts. So you'd have to every day, every hour, check, all these routes, millions of routes, origins, destinations, classes, airlines. So there's millions of searches that we cover every month. And so it's a drag. And, a lot of people do it. Expedia came out with a study that said there's like 38 searches the average traveler makes. And we know, because who wants to push the button on an airline ticket when you're always thinking, well, is this low? Is it gonna change? And so to do this stuff on your own, a few people do a little, everybody is on their own to some extent. And so we just come along and kind of give them tools and reports and shortcuts on how to do it. But yeah, our alerts, we have airfare alerts when, airlines, they call them tactical fares, and they slash when on routes where there's not a lot of like a business traveler demand. And so anytime they have excess, where airline seats are like tomatoes, right? The farmer doesn't, he sells them cheap right before they're ready to spoil.
Yeah.
Well, so do the airlines, and they use different tactics, and a lot of that there's a lot of mindsets around that, and the alerts, and trying to find routes that have availability using your miles. I mean, nowadays with the dynamic pricing, I mean, you never know what something's going to cost, right? In the old days, miles, they had charts, they were predictable. You earned miles, got them for trips. You can't do that nowadays. Everything's changed. Okay. But our Sweet Redeems alerts, for example, they show you the routes that have the discount availability. So if you do it on your own, you can't beat the airlines on your own, unless you got just endless hours.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. So what it would ultimately, I think you're saying is you got to know what the names of the aircraft are, and you'd search a whole bunch of different trips until you found one that was a better aircraft.
In the aircraft, in the wide body aircraft, you just spend, few hours looking at all the routes and, sizing them up. And, but then you've got connections, and depending on where you are. So yeah, I mean, I don't recommend doing this stuff.
It's bad.
It's not where I'd say pay the money, just pay. And,
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to get out of coaching.
Well, and you're too cheap, the way it is. So, your service is way too cheap. It's only right now a few $100 a year. So, okay, cool strategy number 3, accidental bucket list experiences. When you told me this, I was like, it's not obvious, but it's really, really smart. So tell me about the trip to Sydney.
Well, it's about blinders. People, they get one thing in their mind, and that's all they think about, and everything else is bad. So, I was headed to Sydney a few years back, and, it had to be first class. You're 15 hours of flying, even business class. You don't want to do that. And so, but there was nothing available on the different strategies to get into first on the nonstops to Sydney. So, but I did find Melbourne. I'm like, well, do I want to do that? Like, it's just not that far. And I'm like, well, let me just see what's going on in Melbourne, like the day that and come to find out, Australian Open quarterfinals are on. I'm like, oh, I love tennis. And wait, you're saying I can fly and get a $20,000 first class ticket for a few grand, or for free using my miles, to Melbourne and the quarterfinals of the Australian Open. So of course, no brainer. So I get there, and I end up, Serena Williams made it to the quarters, of course. She always probably won the tournament this a few years ago. And so by just being open-minded about, I want to get to the continent. I want to get close, especially 15 hours away. And so by taking off the blinders and trying to get a deal, and first class is important to me. So I want to get to the region. And so, I'm open-minded. And A, you want to get to the region, but B, you want to do it on a point. So what routes have availability to use my miles, whether you buy the miles or you already have them? Half the people have a ton of miles that they don't think have any value.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I'm pretty proud to say I got to see Serena Williams in the Australian Open. Yeah. I've talked about it, told this story 100 times.
Yeah, it's great, and I think the summary of the strategy is, first of all, the narrow story you told is, okay, let me get nearby, and then you do a Google search for events taking place on the dates you're going to arrive. You were only there for a few hours. It was 6 or 8 hours.
Yeah.
So you were in and out. Still got there super cheap. The short flip from Melbourne to Sydney was simple. And then if you expand on the strategy, because you and I have kind of beat this horse a few times, you also look for a couple days before. So maybe you'll have a different hop. And I started using this because, one of my bucket list goals is to see, Ringo Starr before he's gone. And, originally I started looking at only in the States, and I thought, maybe I can use one of these strategies, do a points thing, go see him whatever country he's in, and, make a trip of it. Maybe there's someone else, I'm into older rockers right now. So, I saw Peter Frampton right before he's got a degenerative disease, so he can't play anymore. And I got to see him the last year he toured.
Can't
So,
wait. Yeah.
that's the, I know it sounds a little morbid, but I think it's just a brilliant strategy.
Well, just another one. So I was going to a conference in Split like 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And so that's a long ways to go for a conference.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, what's going on in Europe around that time? Well,
Yeah.
the French Open. And I'm not that big of a tennis freak, but the French Open is the French Open. The clay.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Guys got to check it out at least
and
once.
so
Yeah.
on the way, so I got to stop somewhere on the way to Split, right? I mean, you can't just go to all that way for one. So I was in Paris. I'll go to Paris for any reason. A dozen times. And so I was in Paris for like 3 days and went to the French Open. And now I've got 3 under my belt. Done the U.S., so I'm thinking Wimbledon. That'll be nothing.
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's fun, and I'm getting more. You want to get the most bang for your buck.
Yeah. No,
That's the bottom line.
Really, really good. Hey, Action Taker. Mike Koenigs here, and I just wanted to interrupt for a second and let you know that if you're ready to reinvent yourself and your business, go to connect2mike.com to learn more and book a conversation with me right now. All right, back to the episode. All right, next strategy. Travel like a king, queen, or rock star. And this is the Emirates strategy, which I used to think that Emirates was only like an Arabic airline or only in select parts of Africa. They go everywhere. And every flight I've ever had on Emirates has been outstanding. First class is best. Business is just fine. Even the upgraded premium or upgraded coach, whatever. It's not bad. It's not bad. That's the way I went one of the times, but boy, first is amazing. So strategy. How do you do the Emirates?
So, I'm a first class flyer. We want to start with first class, and then if we can't do it, we'll go down. So let's start at the top. And, and you can, Amex, most people nowadays have some kind of Amex card. So people have membership rewards points. They are an Amex partner. So that's the fast, easy, quick way to get onto Emirates is by collecting Amex points. Of course, you can buy, most people don't realize you can buy Amex points, but we talked about that strategy.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. You mentioned that Emirates, of course, Dubai, but they fly New York to Milan.
Yep.
And they fly New York, Athens. Well, if you're going to Europe and you want to fly first class, Emirates is the first airline I think of.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but this past year with the lockdowns, there's a lot of demand. And so flights are fairly full, even first class, more than usual. But, this is one of those like little things you'd never think of. It's like when you know it, it's like, oh, duh. So airline wait lists are something that a lot of people know of. United, on their website, you can wait list a mileage upgrade. So people kind of sort of know a little bit about waitlist nowadays, and occasionally a site like United will allow you to waitlist. Emirates, on the other hand, so Emirates has no availability. You go on their site, there's nothing. Mm-hmm. Okay, but if you pick up the phone, the old-fashioned telephone, right? The last time you booked a flight, what's that? And you say, hey, you know what? Can I just waitlist these flights?
And you can do more than one flight.
They'll allow you to waitlist 3 dates. And I'm telling you, I've done this for myself. I did this how do I want to come home from Europe? How do I want to come home from? How do I want to go? Or Emirates first class, right?
Yeah.
It's there's a couple others to think of. And so I waitlisted 3 days, and one of them opened. So I've done it for myself a couple times, and then we've kind of done it in the first class flyer laboratory. It's about 50% of the time it opens up. So 3 days, you're going to get one of them. And so, when you can't otherwise get that $30,000 ticket for, Emirates maybe get it for $5 or something if you buy the miles, don't have them.
Right. Okay. So again,
there's a little loopholes and tricks, and they're all over the place. But how are you going to know on your own? Yeah. How are you going to figure that out?
Yeah. Well, and again, what I've found out of all your strategies, there's probably, you've got your published step-by-step how-tos on your site. But out of the 100 or so, where it gets really interesting is when you start combining the strategies. And we've got another one here. So cool strategy number 5 turn your business trip into a vacation?
Well, I mean, so everyone knows that a lot of times there's no rhyme or reason to how airlines price. You know, how do fares come about to be what they are? And then you add different, like the fare rules. You know, do these fares allow a stopover or not? And so this goes back to the, you know, getting all the bang for your buck. If you got a business meeting in Miami, for example, American with its route network through the Caribbean has Miami might be a little bit more expensive of a route, not necessarily, but the Caribbean first class can be fairly low fares, but a lot of the fares to the Caribbean allow a stopover. And so what this does is turning, you know, a business trip, or even if you're going to Miami for fun, you know, that's not a bad place to go for fun. And if you are, you can tack on right now the two secret sort of destinations are San Juan, Puerto Rico, and St. Thomas. You can actually tack on the side trip onto Miami and sometimes even drive down your Miami first class fare. So, you know, we call these, you know, you get free side trips. Another example is flying to Frankfurt. A recent report we did a couple months ago is you can tack on, say, to Frankfurt, you're going for you know, meetings or a conference or whatever, tack on Delhi, India, Taj Mahal, okay, or Cairo, you know, the pyramids, right? You can tack those on and actually drive your lower, because there's sort of leisure destinations or lower cost business class destinations. And so when you have a higher fare, sort of a business route, and you tack on these high-end bucket list side trips with leisure fares that allow stopovers in the city you were otherwise originally going to, you get a free side trip. Why are you going to go halfway around the world for business and not check off a bucket list trip? I don't know.
Yeah,
you can do all that if you want. I'm not.
No, it's a really good idea, and just from a financial point of view, if you're combining strategies, you could buy points at a discount when they're on sale. And when you sign up, you get the notifications as to when they're on sale and where to go. Because if you go out right now, like I tried, when you told me about this, I'm like, well, I'm going to figure it out myself. I couldn't figure out where in the hell to buy Amex points even. It's annoying. It's not easy to find on their website. And then, and there's so many spam sites, spam and scam. It's almost impossible to discern what's actually real. And most of these services, other people who have been in the business or in this business who haven't been in it for 26 years, they make their money selling credit card offers.
Yeah. So we don't take advertising. So why does firstclassflyer.com charge? And some people say, well, you know, why would I pay? If you get, so what is it? If you're not paying for something on the internet,
if you don't pay, you don't pay attention.
Well, yeah, and if you don't pay, you're not the client. You're the
product. Yeah,
you're the product exactly. And so we don't sell you. So we're unbiased. We don't take advertisements. We don't have affiliate links. And all the travel bloggers, you click, you know, you see they have the disclaimers. Oh, by the way, we take money from these people. So we don't do that. Our content isn't tainted, but yeah, you don't know who to believe, and you don't know what they're, you know, if they're just skewing you to, okay, maybe it's an okay deal, but maybe there's a way better deal. Yeah, like, why are you going to want someone to sign up for a Delta credit card and get those, you know, Sky Pesos? I mean, why are you going to do that? So
well, I did. I'm a sucker.
Well, no, I mean, you fly Delta, so I mean, you know, you genuinely have reasons to fly. So you've accumulated them by flying.
That is very true,
and that's fine.
Yeah, and I'm a million miler.
Yeah,
but now that I'm turned on to this, I've already maneuvered some stuff, and so there's a couple strategies I'm using right now. One is, when I found out about you, we started working together. The first thing I asked you was, so who are your clients right now? Who are you working with? And we started dialoguing, and I'm like, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm giving my EA, Lori, access to the service and the system. And when you and I sat down with Vivian, I said, okay, Vivian, here's what I'm going to do, because now that I can hog up Matt's time, we're going to plan out 3 vacations. And I gave you some destinations and some places I wanted to go. So one of them was the Ireland, Scotland, blah, 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 and said, what's the best strategy to do that? And then I want to go to South Korea and Japan. That's another one. And then we also are going to do like the Vietnam, Cambodia, maybe even do Thailand again, that kind of a thing. But get over there. And I had you break down what to do, and the solutions to all these they're hybrid, And so what I'm driving to is a question for you, which is for everyone listening to us right now. And again, I'm going to give you the link so you can get a trial of the site. And that's firstclassflyer.com/MK. It's a 14-day trial. And then you can take advantage of the fact that Matt isn't charging enough for his service, and I'm going to fix that problem for him very soon. So this is anyone who knows me knows as soon as I start working with someone, I'm going to increase their prices. But you can get in right now if you want to use it for the year, but you'll be able to download lots of reports and see these strategies and really get the genius behind this. But who's this for? So busy business people, for sure, and someone like me who's got an EA, and I can say, go figure this out for me, study this. You get to take advantage of it, but plan my trips, find some deals, get on the wait list, tell me when to buy points, and give me some stacked hybrid solutions. Do the thinking for me.
I mean, why not? So the best, delegate, right? And so like what we talked, I said, well, you have these 3 trips planned. So we said, okay, well, when do you want to travel? So give your EA a sense of the time, especially if you're doing this a year in advance.
Yeah. The answer is always best weather when there aren't crowds. So we always go on the fringe.
Though, yeah. But decide on what that is up front. So you're ready. So you're ready for the flash deals. So remember, we will buy tickets when they're cheapest. When are they cheapest? When they're these flash deals. The airlines have these excess inventory, surplus, wholesale, whatever you want to call it. And so be ready with a range of dates.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go to Tokyo through these 2 months, or Ireland. These. So you give that to your EA the window. Yep. So she's out there subscribing to to our alerts, or she's out on their own, or however you want to do it. And so, but she has these parameters of your flexibility. So if you wait and give the airline a particular route, a particular date, on a particular class, you're going to pay you go to the car dealer and you say you want all this exact a feature list. It's a custom job. You're going to pay retail.
Right, you're going to pay retail.
If you don't want to pay retail, Bennett's don't pay retail. You don't have to pay retail, and that's by knowing in advance. So you're ready on these flash deals, and of course, there's the mindset of a lot of times you can freeze flash fares. A lot of people don't realize
what exactly is that. What's that mean?
So I mean, like United's fare lock is sort of the simplest one, but for $7 or whatever, you can hold a fare for 3 days, or $10 you can hold a fare for a week. And so it's like the flash fare hits. Well, we don't. We thought we knew the dates,
so
but
you're basically buying insurance on a price.
You're locking it in,
okay.
Because the flash deal is half or whatever what the other deal. You're Ireland, so how do you get to Ireland? Well, it's a $4,000-ish ticket, and using miles is not the greatest. In first class, BA, I don't know, maybe you could do that, but I mean, I would just wait for a flash fare sale when it's from the West Coast where you're at. $1,700 to $1,900, half off. Couple tickets, and if a couple trips a year, that's $10,000 by waiting for the flash deal. By knowing in advance the range of dates, by locking them in when, because it happens when the fare hits, it may not last a day or two, sometimes less than that. And so you freeze it, hold the fare, maybe do it on multiple airlines. Okay, maybe Ireland, one that's got a schedule here, your wife, she's out of town, you're going to talk about it, whatever, your spouse. And so make multiple bookings, your EA, for different routing schedules, and to hold it for $10. And you've got time to think. One of our reports was time to think, right? Because that's the whole anxiety over pushing the airline buy now button. And so, those sort of stacking flash fares with thinking ahead on dates, being flexible when the fares hit, and being alerts. And it sounds like a lot, but when you tell your EA, just not that much, and you just wait.
Yeah.
You just wait for the deal.
Yeah. No, it's simple and brilliant, and I think what I've learned after just pouring through your reports, and it's entertaining reading. That's another thing is I know you've spent a long time writing this stuff, but I like the personality of the content. It's fun to read. It feels like you're talking to a friend. And so with your team, you've found a way to continue to carry that sense and that feeling on, that I'm actually sitting down. Like, I'd read this newsletter in bed at night. It's not work. And I know now what I'm going to do is I've already told Lori that this is coming. I haven't given her parameters, but now that I've interviewed you, I know exactly what I'm going to tell her. And one of the things that I'm going to also outsource, so I'm going to say, here's what I want you to research for these locations. Find the best weather and when there's the most tourists, and I'll try to catch it on the edges, because my suspicion is that there might be more deals there because it isn't as high a trafficked.
I love shoulder season. So, I mean, you're not going to get me going anywhere where you got to stand in lines and fight crowds.
Totally.
It's just, I like to go places where they're locals and I can experience.
I'm with you 100%.
So, I mean, I'll even go, in the cold or winter because, I'm looking for an experience. I mean, I have weather. You don't need weather in San Diego.
Nah.
But you know what? You've got to do that work anyways. You've got to figure out the dates and the times. So there's no extra work. The thing is, like, don't combine that and then book as soon as you find that out. Do that homework. Come up with your bucket list. How many different places? And so you've got, a handful of opportunities your EA has, and she's looking, and when the deal hits is when you buy. But you asked a question I want to come back to, because you combine, who's this for? And you talked about it's enjoyable reading. I mean, consultants love us, people who make their own schedules, business owners. Of course, road warriors, anyone who's flying a lot, is flying or on business, but how do they use their miles? They got tons of miles. People that already know. There's a lot of people that are sort of into, the different games and stuff. And so, but there's so many advanced strategies that you're not going to the blogs and threads.
Well, the easiest people to convert are the ones who are already converted, right?
Yeah. And so one of my favorite quotes, we had Dick Bowles, he's... what color is your parachute? 10 million books. He wrote it once, and he said that First Class Flyer, our monthly newsletter, is even enjoyable reading, even when you're not even traveling. Yeah. So, I mean, the challenge is we try to be stimulating, entertaining, give you things to think about, mindsets that are transferable into, whatever business.
Yeah. Well, even at the mastermind yesterday, I was introducing you to the people who were there, and while I talked about you when you were talking to other people, and I was sharing some of the strategies you had. So it's definitely like, this is great conversation material. And I think you're right. What do you talk about when you're at a cocktail party? It's what's the most recent place you're at. And if you have I had the most amazing first class experience. Oh, and then if you brought some friends or family with you, it's a great conversation.
But you don't want to tell people you flew first class unless you got a deal.
Yeah.
And you have to tell them you flew first class, but you can only say that if you got a deal.
Yeah.
And so, there's a paradox.
Yeah, that definitely takes away the cool factor for sure.
Yeah, if you paid full price, then you're.
Okay, Matt. So one of the things that I think that I really want to encourage is, first of all, get in here and try this thing out, because the tool's awesome. It's fun. It's educational. It's definitely fun for the whole family. And again, that's at firstclassflyer.com/MK. That's where you can get our special deal, which means you get a trial for 2 weeks, and you get to download a bunch of special reports. And you've got multiple tiers of membership that give you different capabilities. Is there anything that you want to talk about in terms of some of the tools when they get inside here, what they'll experience, and what to access first that'll give them the most value, most bang for the buck?
Well, I'd get a flavor for our fare alerts, because they're kind of basic. They're just information on when and the deal when deals hit. So airlines sometimes will announce fare sales, but they're always in economy. Rarely do you see fare. So I'd start with something simple. If you're new to thinking about beating the airlines, at their premium air travel game, then sweet redeems, what we call them, when redeeming miles is easy. So routes that offer the deeply discounted old school pricing. So those are both part of our silver.
So that's where we're going to
level.
get like the 80-90% off kind of deals.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we have even a section within those that how to buy miles. No miles, no problem. And so we guide you. We show you how to do it. We have, if you're booking on a site, you've never done it. So there's all kinds of tools on how to do this yourself. And then our monthly flagship newsletter we've been publishing for 26 years, the monthly Upgrade Advisor, is just strategies and pick and choose. You don't master. The goal isn't to be a master, a Jedi at any of this. The goal is just to get a cheap, awesome ticket that's you're gonna have a lot to talk about and everyone's gonna remember. And so just ease in and consume what feels good and just you don't have to know everything. I want to know everything Mike knows, but about business and marketing. But I'm just gonna take one thing at a time and consume one as much as I can handle and just like everything. So
right. That's good. All right. Well, I think this is a good place to break. So I'll finish this off by, first of all, saying thank you for spending time with Matt and me today. As you can tell, I'm super excited about this. I can't wait. Vivian and I are very committed to taking advantage of these strategies and making it a part of how we travel. And also, we're going to just invite more people to travel with us. That's one of our favorite things to do is we travel with other couples. Sometimes we've gone in groups of 8 and 10 who are good travelers, but being able to go out and say, oh, by the way, let's all go first class and to really exotic places and make a couple other stops as well. Make this the ultimate bucket list opportunity. That's the way we're going to start using it. And also, I'm going to extend the way I'm traveling for business, where I'm going to tack on the vacations on the front and back. In the past, I did a couple extra days in the front and back, but it was at that location. Now I'm going to find out if there's a stopover somewhere else where I can get a really sweet deal, stay a day or two on the front and back. That's going to be a new strategy as well. So, Matt, one more time, thanks a lot for this. It's been a blast.
Good and great to be with you. Appreciate it.
All right. And let's say goodbye to everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Capability Amplifier. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.